Welcome to Pretty Good at Talking, the companion podcast to the book I wrote about my family's 2018 Pacific Crest Trail through hike called Pretty Good at Walking, which you can pick up in various formats on Amazon. Now, in this podcast, we are bringing to life the extraordinary stories of characters whose experiences on trail intersected with our own. Today's episode captures a remarkable first. 3 moms whose families have achieved what only a handful of people, and by my reckoning there's only one other mom on planet Earth who has done what they've done, and that is to complete the triple crown of hiking with their kids in tow. You'll meet my wife, Monica, who along with our 4 children traversed America's greatest trails, watching our kids transform from nervous beginners to accomplished adventurers. She is joined by Mindi Wildflower Bennett, whose family of 6 pioneered their way across the country with a dog named Muir, teaching their kids trail math and resilience along the way. And Danae Queen Bee Netteburg, who not only took on these trails with 5 children, but did it with a toddler, aptly named Dead Weight, in tow. Between them, they've crossed scorching deserts, scaled snowy peaks, and forded rushing rivers, all the while managing homework, teenage emotions, and those inevitable moments when someone just doesn't want to take another step. Their stories weave together 3 different approaches to an impossible-sounding challenge, walking nearly 8,000 miles with the people you love the most, or at least loved the most when you began the adventure. This is their first time meeting, and in their conversation you'll hear about everything from creative ways they kept their families safe from mountain lions, including one mom's unique theory about Mylar balloons, to the reality of sharing tents with grumpy teenagers. They'll trade stories about epic trail birthdays, lost kids in snowstorms, and those moments when the whole family huddled together in a storm shelter. Whether you're dreaming of your own epic family adventure or just curious about how these 3 ordinary families survived the extraordinary, you're about to discover what happens when you combine parenthood with thousands of miles of wilderness from the mom's point of view. Join us for some pretty good talking about what it means to be pretty good at walking.
And here we... No, I'm just kidding.
Is it recording?
It's recording. It's recording.
Okay, start.
Start. Well, here we are. Let's see. Do I know any other moms that have thru hiked the Triple Crown with their kids? I don't. You 2 are the only ones I know.
A lot of moms who have thru hiked, but the more insane ones like us have triple crowns. So it's nice to meet you guys.
I know. It's very nice to meet y'all. Yeah. Well, let's introduce ourselves and our families.
All
Danae,
right,
you want to go first?
Yeah, you better go first, Danae.
I better go first. Well, I'm Danae, and my trail name was Queen Bee. I gave that to myself. Sorry, don't tell anybody. And Olin is my husband. He's Spreadsheet, and he got that on CDT because he is logistical amazing at doing all that stuff, which means I'm not good at that. So we won't be talking about that stuff. And I have 5 kids, and their current ages are, so Lyle is 15. On the PCT, he was 14, and his trail name is Blaze. Zane, his trail name is Boomerang, and he is 13. This gets really long when you have 5 kids.
I know.
He was 11, turned 12 on the PCT. Addison is, man, see, this is really hard.
No, they're always changing.
All the PCT ages. She was 9, and she turned 10 on the PCT, and her name is Angel Wings. And Juniper was 7, and she's a beast. And then we had one extra one, the last 2 trails, and she's dead weight. And she was 1, and she turned 2 on the trail.
Okay, and real quick, what was the order of your trails? Which did you do first to last?
Oh, we did
and what years?
AT in 20, CDT in 22, and PCT in 23. Did I say that right? PCT, yeah.
20, 22, and 23. Mm-hmm.
And I had a baby in between the AT and CDT.
AT. Somebody was an AT baby.
Yes. We might share that story later. We might. All right, you're
I'm Monica Strawbridge. Let's see. Aiden is our oldest. I didn't have a trail name. We didn't have trail names. I know. No trail name.
You should have given yourself one like me.
I know. I should have Her Royal Highness. That's what they call me, actually, because I like to use an air mattress and like a thin little air mattress. I think I'm very hoity-toity for that. Aiden is our oldest. She's, let's see, gosh, I don't know how old she was when. Okay, I'll do our first hike. First was the PCT, then was the CDT, then we finished with the AT, and it was 2018, 2020, and 2021. Yeah. And Aiden was 16 on the PCT. And just got older from there. She's 23 now. June is our second, and she was 14 on the PCT. She's now about to turn 21. Henry was 13 on the PCT, and he's 19. And Georgie was 11 on the PCT, and now she's 18. So, Vince, how old are you on the PCT?
That is a bad question.
I was, let's see.
I can't even remember.
Anyway, so that's us. That's us. We live in Florida right now. And Danae, you guys live in...
We moved to Michigan.
Right now. Mindy, how about you?
All right, Mindy, your turn.
All right, my crew, we live up in Washington State. And when we started the PCT, it was 2019. And our oldest, Sierra, was 16, and her trail name was Amazon because she's tough like an Amazon. And then Kaya was 14, and we called her Honey Badger because she gets pretty mean. And when hungry, she was actually trying to get some honey out of a cold honey jar and got the trail name Honey Badger. And then our son, Tristan, he was 12, and he went by the trail name of Turtle. Not because he's slow, but he would really love to just flop on his backpack like a turtle and wait for all of us slow ones to catch up to him. And then our youngest, Ruby, she started the PCT when she was 9, and she got the trail name of Ladybug. Oh, and I went by Wildflower, which technically I gave to myself, but I told another hiker to call me Wildflower so that I was obeying some sort of unspoken law. Hey, can you give me the trail name Wildflower? That's what I really want. And Adam definitely said that was cheating. Yeah.
What was Adam's trail name? I forget.
Kidnapper. Is that the worst name?
That's right. That's right.
I don't want to hike near you guys.
Right. I was like, hey.
That's so funny.
That's like scary. And foreigners most of the time would not think it was funny at all. Like, I don't think that means what you think it means. And he's like, just because I have the most kids on the trail right now. Like, we picked up a nephew that hiked with us. So we were, they got these 5 kids. He just thought it was so funny to go by Kidnapper. And people remember him by that trail name for sure. And it's the way it is.
It is funny when you think of it like that. If you add that little part.
I know. I would be like, but these are all of our own children.
We didn't kidnap anyone, I swear. I know. You see people getting a little nervous when Vince will say things like that sometimes where he's like, I didn't really ask them if they wanted to go. People would be like,
yeah, we didn't believe in that either.
Your kids' trail names.
My kids?
Yeah.
Nobody got any. Nobody had any. Oh, except June. Because I don't know if it was like why we didn't get them. We just probably were more in Florida than you guys were.
No, well, I know what you mean because we kind of all helped each other with our names, which is why I was wearing the hat too. And somebody gave me the name and I sort of named myself, but because we were just the family. So you're like, oh, there's all the people with the kids. It's not like you need a name to be known. You're kind of just like, oh, there's that group. Stay away from them.
Yes. So I know there was a lot of that, wasn't there? Like, did y'all notice that? It seems like Mindy, it seems like you guys intermixed with hikers really well, and we had some friends out there too, but it just felt like a lot of people were like.
Some of our best experiences were mixing with the hikers. I mean, I think maybe that's my kid's favorite part is actually talking with other hikers along the trail. And
yeah, I think you guys seemed like you did really well.
You get the A+ for
yes,
yeah.
plus.
Well, we were significantly slower than the Strawbridges for sure. So I mean, but we didn't have like people hike with us for long distances. We were just too slow for them.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
our first one was 2020. And so, there was nobody out then. So
Yeah.
we didn't get to know very many people. But the few people that we did get to know, like we feel this big connection with them.
Right.
And then the other 2 hikes, we had a couple of guys hike with us for extended periods of times. And we love them. And I feel like they're family now.
Yeah.
So, but not like, all the groups, because we have a baby. Nobody wants to sleep near a baby.
I know.
There's a
I do
thing.
remember I loved watching yours, and I need to ask another question, I think, but I did love all of yours watching you with the potty.
Oh, yeah. We can certainly get into that in a bit after.
I was like, Vince, they're hiking with a potty. That's amazing.
That's like 8 ounces spent, I swear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Totally. All right. Well, let's talk about how you got started doing it. Why?
Start with Mindi.
Oh, okay. I didn't even know what the Triple Crown was. I had no clue. And Adam just
didn't
says
either.
one day, yeah, I want to hike the Triple Crown as a family. And I was like, what?
Wow.
And he grew up in Washington, and his mom is really into backpacking. So he had done some sections of the PCT, and I had no idea that it was a life goal of his to hike the PCT. And then, hey, why not throw in the CDT and the AT too? And as he described it to me, I was like, what? We get to spend this much time with our kids, just us? And I had a lot of false ideas that we'd be out there eating really healthy food and all this exercise and fresh air and fresh water. So I
Singing The Hills Are Alive.
It was a lifelong dream. I feel like he should have told you before, like, you
I
guys.
know, that's what I'm
had
Was he
your
keeping
kid?
it to himself?
He waited until our 4th child was like 2 or 3 years old to
Yeah,
tell
that's
me
a
his life
lot.
dream.
Wow, so wait, you knew when Ruby was 2, like you were planning that long ahead of time before?
Yeah, we spent
Wow.
7 years planning. I mean, we sold
Amazing.
our house, we quit
Mhm.
jobs, we uprooted the kids' education. I mean, it was
Mhm.
a whole life change, of course.
Amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
And you did it. There's the thing that we look at and we just know we don't feel like we're special or anything. We just feel so fortunate because,
Yeah.
at our age, we're not going to mention that. I'm not embarrassed about my age. I'm just saying, like, anything could happen. You see families like, your parents are sick. Oh, you can't go. Or you hurt something, or somebody's sick, or you hurt your knee, or these different things. And we just feel so fortunate and blessed to be able to finish 3 trails because anything could happen before or along the way. And just, it's not even fair, but we're still happy about it.
Right.
I'm
and
amazed that you started with the goal of the Triple Crown. Like we had
Yeah, that's
just
amazing.
the goal of 1. We were like, let's do the PCT.
We didn't even have the goal of that when we started.
Really?
We started the AT. Well, we had wanted to do it in 18, but we were at a hospital. We ran a rural hospital in Chad, Africa. And we had been there for 9 years at that point. We were super burnt out. And so we were like, okay, Juniper was 2. And then the other kids kind of go up by 2. So you don't have to do all the math. But so we're like, I'm going to carry her. And then she's like the bigger of our babies. So we would have failed. Like she was heavy. And so we had a doctor that was covering the hospital that canceled like 3 weeks before we were supposed to leave for our 2018 hike. And so we had planned this. I did all the planning. I had been back in America for a little break and I had looked up gear and got different stuff and brought it back to Africa so we could size it with the kids.
Oh
and then
my
we
goodness.
canceled. So it felt really dramatic and sad. Then 2 years later, we were, definitely ready. So it was kind of like a blessing in disguise because it wasn't
She
the
was
right
a little
thing.
older and could do it.
Walk.
Yeah.
She could walk.
Yeah. Yeah. The
So,
carrying. Wow.
Yeah. So it just was a lot different. But we were like, okay, 1 month, we're only going to have it for 1 month. Like we're going to try for 1 month, but we didn't ever think that we could really finish it. Like just
Really?
the
Like you were like, we're going to say we're doing it, but
I am so
probably
bad.
not going to do it.
I didn't even know what the CDT was, and I really hadn't heard much of the PCT. So that is
Me
very
neither.
smart and meditated, Mindi, because
I know.
I was like, we're just going out for a month and maybe we could keep going and that would be amazing. But we didn't dare to dream really because I know maybe we didn't want to be let down. We just kept going.
Yeah. 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 I actually wanted to hike the AT as a kid because I'm an East Coast, person. And so I thought, it would be fun to hike the AT. And I guess I mentioned it to Vince.
Wow.
At some point.
Your idea.
And then, I was like, we should do it when they're out of the house, whatever. And he was like, no, we should do it while they're with us. And then we just started looking at the AT, and then we heard about the PCT. We didn't know about it when I didn't even know the PCT existed. And then we just started learning about the PCT, and we were looking at videos of it and whatever. And we were like, if we're going to do one, we should do the PCT. We'll just I don't even think I think we knew the CDT existed, but we thought, not for amateurs or whatever. So we decided maybe we could try the PCT. So, and we had to take our kids out of, 3 of them were homeschooled. One was in a pretty, orderly high school program we had to take her out of. But it was great. I mean, it was a great decision, but yeah, it was definitely, well, let me ask this. It's not on my list of questions that I've been given, I don't think.
We're going rogue here.
What were people's, the people closest to you, or what were the people's responses that were not maybe not your immediate family? I don't know, your immediate family is fine. What were the responses you remember getting to your plans when you would tell people?
I remember telling my grandparents that we had lived in Colorado at the time, and we were living right next door to my grandparents, which was a magical situation. And I was just so excited about what Adam had just described. So we went over there to talk to Grandma and Pop, and I remember their faces looking as though we were we're going to sacrifice our children to the nature gods. We might as well have said that because they hated the idea, just couldn't comprehend. But then they were my biggest fans when we were actually doing it. I mean, my grandpa bought the National Geographic maps, and he had little tacks to show where we were at exactly what time, And so I thought their reaction was pretty funny. They hated it, but then they were the biggest supporters, almost.
Yeah. That's so great it turned around.
Yes, yes.
That's so funny. Yeah. We got, I think we got a lot of that's selfish to do to your kids. Maybe, I don't know. We got a lot of that's probably a bad idea. I don't think, can you remember? I'm asking Vince off camera. Did we get any? Yeehaw, that's a great idea.
So you told people, though, you told people you were going.
We told people we were going. Yeah. Yeah.
That's where we differ. We
just did it.
So people already thought we were crazy because we lived in Africa. So they're like, yes, they're coming back to civilization. Hey, they're going into the woods.
Yeah. Anything that you did from there was a step back into...
We just lived in a really rural part of Africa that has a lot of malaria, and if you don't know what that is, it kills so many people every year, and our kids got it often, and so we had a lot of judgment from that from a lot of people, and so I kind of just quit listening to people. But so when we went out in the woods, we told some people, but we were kind of more nervous. It was 2020 pre-pandemic, though. We were doing it pre-pandemic. And then we were planning on, okay, let's just do a month and then we'll kind of share with people. And then, nope, we're not going to share with people. So we didn't really post anything until we hit, I think I started posting a little bit at 1,000 miles. I was like, well, I guess we're doing this.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I mean, that has all sorts of controversy, and we weren't trying to stir up trouble or, kill people in little villages and
in small villages. Yeah.
But we were just trying to stay safe for ourselves and a family in our little bubble. But we had a really great year. And so we kind of just kept going. We had a secret Facebook group for our family to share with. It wasn't even on regular Facebook. So
that's awesome.
Funny. It was a very not so secret anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we did let's see, what did we do? We did the CDT in 2020, and we got a little flack for it, but whatever.
We decided to do the Pacific Northwest Trail in 2020, stay
Yeah,
closer
that's
to
right.
home. Adam's parents his mom hiked with us a bunch, which was awesome. And then his dad kind of ran support. We called him the through driver, and he would drive us some food and help us out. That, you guys got to do that trail. Highly
Really?
recommend. Oh, yeah. It's incredible.
Wow.
Amazing.
I know.
Do you
I
know
love
out of
Washington.
all, I can just say this, I'm outing it. Out of all the trails, the 3 long trails, all the states, I mean, I love them all. There's something special in all of them. But Washington,
Uh-huh.
it's my
Mhm.
favorite.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know.
and
The Cascades were my favorite for
So
sure.
pretty.
yes.
Like
Yeah.
every moment you turn, you're like, it's so pretty. I'm going to take
Uh-huh.
10 pictures and they're all perfect.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
You're
Yep.
so fortunate to live there.
I know. I
Yeah.
say it every day. It's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is your favorite? What was your favorite, Monica? Was it also Washington?
It was. It was the Cascades. I really loved the New Mexico desert at some
I did
point.
too.
I loved
too.
that. Yeah. But it's so different, But the Cascades were very, very special. Yeah.
Were they your favorite too, Mindy?
Yeah, I have a hard time picking a favorite.
Mhm.
I say the winds in Wyoming a lot of times is my
Mhm.
favorite.
Mhm.
I love them
Mhm.
too.
Yeah. That area is really amazing too.
It's like a secret too, right? It's not a national
Yeah,
park.
it's
Nobody
true.
has ruined it yet.
Did y'all have any crowded trails? Like, did you ever feel crowded on your? I felt like there was, trying to think on the AT, even, it didn't feel crowded to me.
To us, the AT felt crowded because
Did
the East Coast is totally foreign to us. We've always just lived out
Mhm.
west. So the heat
Mhm.
and the humidity and the bugs and all the people just made the
Mhm.
AT hard for us.
Mhm.
I remember seeing both you guys' or your groups or your families posts, and I was like, oh no, they're not liking the AT, like at different points. And honestly, it's my favorite. And that's because
Really?
it was my first, maybe,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
but it's still my favorite, my first love. through
No,
hiking.
I think that's what happens. I have thought about that because
I know it was
people
you
love
guys'
the AT
last.
so much.
It
They
was
love
your
it.
last, and I was like, oh, they're not going to have any views, like, oh.
Mhm.
And-
Mhm.
But I don't know. I just love the deciduous trees and the flowers,
Mhm.
and I love
Mhm.
that about it.
So many flowers.
But
I
we
know.
also did it in 2020 when there was not a lot of people out, so we didn't have to worry about camping sites or.
Mhm.
I think it was a different experience for us than maybe most people. Even though the people are what make the trail, it was just sometimes in a bigger family, it's hard because with a baby,
Yeah.
especially, I don't want to camp near somebody and have her accidentally cry and then be like, oh,
Yes.
they hate us.
Yeah, how did you guys? I'm going rogue again. No, this is not. I don't know if this is on the list or not. How did you guys camp? Like, how did y'all do it? Did anybody on the AT? We did the kids hammocked. I didn't hammock, but the kids hammocked the whole way, and that worked out really well because it's crowded for the camping spaces are crowded. But how did y'all
Can I just say that?
do it?
So when we were getting ready to do our CDT hike, we had already done the AT. We ended up slack packing a lot of it, probably half of it. So we were getting ready to do the CDT and we were adding dead weight. So we were like, that's a lot of weight. So we were like, okay, we're going to get serious and drop weight. So we looked at the straw, you guys is, and we were like, okay, your family. We were like, what would Vince do? I don't think he even sleeps with pads. Like, right?
So I have this thick air mattress.
We were making decisions. We were like, well, Vince doesn't even sleep with pads. So why do we need the thick one? We were like, okay, well, let's take the thin one.
I know.
It was like, in the beginning, it was like these decisions, we were like, well, you got
I
to
don't
drop.
know. Vince is like super austere and he's like, I can make it work. Like, whatever. Yeah.
But weight really does matter so much, especially when you have a kid, you're just having to drop weight, but it matters anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I think at the beginning we read this article that talked about, the majority of people that finish, like 70% of the people that finish, or maybe more, I'm probably misquoting, but they keep their weight down. That's how their pack weight down. That's how you finish without injury. And mostly people get off because of injury. So
Adam was really good at keeping our pack weight down. And we, it took a couple trails before we really believed him. Like, oh, you're right. You're right. I do have to leave that at home.
Our trails were very different. Like you were asking about the camp setup. So, and like I said, Olin is the logistical person. He loves gear. And I don't really care that much. I mean, I know what's light and what's heavy, kind of. I know our gear, but he likes all the details about all the gear.
Yeah. What fabric it is.
Yeah. Like, I don't know
what the thread count is.
I think that's super cool that people like that stuff. I just, I'm not into it. But based on how big our kids were, we kind of upped. Like on the AT when we were backpacking, Olin and I were in 2 hammocks, and so we did like a bunk bed with hammocks, and then we had 4 kids in a 2-person tent, and they shared a big, I think it was a 2-person, maybe it was 1 person. They shared a large rectangular quilt. So we just did a lot of sharing, which is what other people that don't have families, you have to think about the size of it, but we just like share more, and like they kept each other warm because they were next to each other. And,
right. Yeah.
So I think you can do that with a group as long as you're okay with being close to somebody.
Yeah. Right. Being in each other's space.
Let's see, we had 2 tents on the CDT. We went to the Z-Packs. We had 2 3-people tents, and the 4 older kids slept horizontal instead of vertical. So and then they grew too big. And so on the PCT, we had to get 2 2-person tents for them. So it just like they kept growing, kids, they just keep.
Yes.
But I don't know, did your kids share a lot, or were they more independent, carry their own stuff?
On the PCT, did we just do 2 tents? 3 tents, 3 2-man tents. So that's right. Now I remember. But then most of the time, so everybody was buddied up with somebody. But then everybody except me went, and again, Her Royal Highness did not want to cowboy camp for a long time. I didn't get into the cowboy camping until like very near, Southern California, I think. And we were going south, so at the end of the trail. But so I think we may have sent one of our tents home and just carried one just in case.
Nice.
But yeah, because we had 2. We had 2 tents in the Sierra. Maybe we had 3. I think we had 2 because we were definitely one night tripled up in tents because we were
warm.
We're so cold and wet. That was a bad night, but yeah. So we just shared. We did a lot of sharing. I think it is helpful to have bodies together sometimes. What about y'all, Mindy? How did y'all?
Oh, we had 3 tents. Our 3 girls, we just called it the 3-girl tent. And that was the biggest source of contention on the whole trail. Like, they would fight almost to the death of who had to get out first. So the others had more room to get dressed and do their morning routine, and surprisingly, the youngest would dig in her heels and refuse to get out first. I mean, when I asked my kids, like, hey, did this trail bond us together? Like, no, we had to share a tent.
We hate each other now.
That was the hardest part. But, Adam and I shared a tent, and we sleep on the Big Agnes, the big mat. I mean, that makes a huge difference. We tried on the PNT to go down to, Vince talks about sleeping on like a window shield, right? I mean, his was so flat and thin, it was nothing. And we tried these little climate mats, and I was ready to get off trail. I was ready to give it all up. I hate this until I got that Big Agnes back, and it's a double wide, and Adam and I share it. Right.
Yeah.
Sleep is a huge deal.
You have to sleep. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And then our son had a tent, and sometimes he shared it with the dog on really cold nights, a one-dog night.
Oh, I forgot. You all hiked with your dog. All 3, right?
Yeah.
Wow, Muir.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
Wow. So he had the dog.
Yes. And sometimes the dog was in Adam and I's vestibule, unless it was really cold, and that was to keep Muir and Tristan alive. They shared a tent.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah. That's so funny. The girls' tent was
There was a lot of murmuring.
a lot of hardship going on over there.
Man.
It's funny.
So you were talking about sleep, and we did the closed cell phone. So, just the little accordion mattress. But man, so the last 2 hikes, our CDT and PCT, we had a baby who breastfed, which was great. It just meant I got no sleep. Like if somebody's next to me, I'm like, oh, be quiet, and It was tough.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
so
did
worth
you-
it. Of
Did
course.
you feel like you got any sleep, or was it like 1 hour
No,
at a
I
time?
always felt tired.
Yeah.
Always. But
I do
that was,
not. Do you guys sleep well out there? I mean, aside from breastfeeding, like I just
I
don't sleep
would if I
well.
didn't have the baby right next to me like
You
a little
would.
Klingon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I sleep the
But-
best. Not the first or second night, but once you get into the routine, that was some good sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I slept
Mhm.
well out there too, but
Mhm.
except for the baby part. But
I don't generally sleep well out there, but I don't know. I still am willing to do it. So must mean I like that because I really like to sleep
Not because
well.
you must have a really comfortable bed at home. That's your problem.
I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't know. I have back issues, but anyway, it was fine. I think once I was really tired, I think once you get into the groove of like, and you're really doing your miles and you're really tired all the time, that's when I slept really well.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
Okay, personalities and ages out there. Okay, how do you keep people's spirits up on the long journey? Did you have any issues with that in the mornings when you're getting out of your tent and it's freezing? No, just in general. We definitely had some mornings where it was like, I think every morning on the PCT somebody was crying because it was freezing and nobody wanted to get out of their bag. And Vince, I mean, we did make some miles, but he was getting us up. Like we were going. He was singing to us every morning. That's how he would wake us up. And if you're not feeling like waking up, you just kind of want to punch.
Olin and I are both not morning people.
Yeah.
Never got started early unless we were slack packing and we really had to make the miles in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But man, I don't think I would have liked that.
Yeah, several of us did not like that. Georgie made
Did you guys wake up early, Mindy? Were you guys generally like waking up early or generally not?
Yeah, we were trying, especially on the PCT, to experiment with the 10 miles before 10 o'clock thing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We really struggled with it. That didn't happen very often. But for the most part, I think we did get up early. It was me. I was out of the tent. Adam was in charge of packing up our whole tent, and my job was to get everybody up and going.
Yeah.
And that's where the dog came in to play. I don't know if the kids would have been as motivated to get out and start going if they didn't see how happy that dog was every morning. He was the
That would
biggest
be
cheerleader.
really, really helpful. Yeah.
It was extremely helpful.
Mhm.
Yeah. You know, I find just one tip out there for parents. Like I don't feel like getting up and it's cold, you know, like on our Gila River on the CDT and it was, we're in April there and it was
Mhm.
freezing and your shoes were frozen and your shoelaces were frozen.
I remember that. And you were
You
in the
know what?
water every 20 seconds in and out
So
of
we
the
have it. We had a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old and, you know, and then the rest go up and then the
Mhm.
baby and the baby's like, hey, this is so fun. You're like, stop it. It's miserable out there. But you have for kids, and I don't know about teenagers because ours were kind of younger, but you have to put on this annoying smiley face and your good attitude or they don't like it. And then everybody's unhappy and then you're not going to get any miles in. So we had to fake a lot of happy moments, which then helped everybody and it helped ourselves too. So
Yeah.
faking it really does do a lot and it gets you in a better
I think I probably got to have a bad attitude because Vince was so happy. So I like endorsed. I don't know. Vince, was I terrible every morning? Was I terrible? He
Believe
just gave
you.
me a thumbs up.
I don't believe you.
No, I had on the PCT, I had a foot thing. Like I thought it was plantar fasciitis. It probably was, but it was probably some arthritis in my foot too. I don't know. But I kind of got it worked out a little bit better by the second 2 trails. But it was hard to get going on my feet in the morning. Just the pain. I was like, I do not want to do this again. But
On my CPT hike, I hobbled for, I don't know, it was something about it. Like I had gray shoes and I wasn't quite used to the 0 drop. So like the first 500 miles, I was still kind of getting used to it. And like I would walk out and like, I'd be like, I knew I'd be fine in 2 miles. So I'm like, I'm just going to go, you know, trying to like, I looked like I was 80. It's like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. I swear. Don't look at me.
The
To all the other
hiker
hikers
hobble.
going by.
Yes, I know. We
Meanwhile,
have
my kids are
videos.
fine. Kids recover so much faster. And then the rest of us were like, oh. And then they're like frolicking down the trail. And you're like, that's not fair.
They hear there's trail magic and they start running down the
Yes.
trail.
Yes.
So were your husbands a big part of like keeping things? In my case, my husband was. People are like, I don't know how you guys did that and kept them motivated. He was the entire motivating force.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
like, I don't know. It was my husband. It wasn't me. But
Yeah, my husband was way better at motivating than me, for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
I tried singing the answer marching to Ruby. That was the worst idea. That was all of my motivating ideas were too primary and totally idiotic, and they didn't work.
Like
And
you were
Adam's
too
like,
happy.
no, you just give her this playlist and you hand her this food, and it worked great. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, okay.
You're trying to be like, this is character building. And she's like, oh, I don't
Right.
care.
We're supposed to be talking about the PCT, is that right? But it was our last
no,
hike.
it's fine.
So I feel like we like had it dialed in by the last hike, you know? We knew how each kid would react, and we could tell. Like Juniper had this thing where we could tell, you know, you want your kids to be happy. We're not out there death marching. We really are not out there death marching our kids. Like
Mhm.
we want them to be happy. So you have to figure out all the things that make them happy. And if we only did that in our day-to-day life, I'm sure it would be much better. So we're out there trying to figure out how to make them happy. But she would, if she lost her arm swing, like she would be happy, you know, singing or whatever, telling stories. And if she lost her arm swing, Olin would look at me and he'd be like, she lost her arm swing. So then we'd be like, oh, tell another story, or, you know, get her to play a game. And
That was
Yeah.
her tell. Her tell
Wow.
of
it's
things
all
are
in
going
the-
downhill.
at like from 4 to maybe 7, 6, maybe. I don't. Yeah,
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
was the arm thing.
Mhm.
I don't know. It might work with adults too. I'm not sure.
Did you have certain times of day that were, I mean, obviously getting out in the morning is tough, but did you have certain times of day that were like golden hour?
Did you?
I mean, I personally did. It would be like after lunch for an hour or two, and then like, yeah, probably 2 or 3 hours after lunch, and then it starts to hurt again.
The
We,
famous Strawbridge cry 30. That's
Yeah, that's when it would happen. That's when it was happen. Yeah,
So that's because you woke up so early, probably. You're like,
we would wake up early. We would go until lunch, and then we would take like 2 hours to 3 hours of lunch, like sit down,
wow, we could
and
never
it was
have.
great. So you knew that was coming, which was nice. In the morning when you were miserable, you didn't want to get up. You were like, oh, but we're gonna have 3 hours to just lay down in the middle of the day. So we did that, and after that, I had my coffee and everything. I didn't have coffee until lunch, which for me, I'm such a coffee drinker. Like that was probably the biggest sacrifice of the whole trip.
Morning was like night hiking. You're like, I'm still in night mode.
Yes. The morning was like, here's your bar, stuff it in your pocket, get your backpack on, and just start walking.
Yeah, that was our morning routine too. Just the
Mhm.
bare bones, pack it up,
No.
eat a bar while you walk. And we
Mhm.
were notorious for siestas also. We had like a
Mhm.
6-hour siesta
They're
in
great.
New Mexico.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Wow.
Because sometimes it's too hot in the middle of the day. Like,
we don't hike
Yeah.
hot well. That's why
Yeah.
the AT
Yeah.
was super hard for us. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We did a lot more of the early morning thing on our last hike because we were like more business. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, it was wonderful, but it was like, okay, we know we have to get this many miles done. It was also our longest hike because our CDT hike was less miles than our PCT hike. So we just knew we had to get it. But we found, you know, we're late. Like we wake up late. So like by noon, other hikers are like, oh, we've got in 10 miles. And we were like, oh, we just started. So then like other hikers stop, I guess, at 4 or something like that. And like we were like, oh man, it's, you know, 6 o'clock. Okay, let's have dinner. And then we got to get in more miles.
Keep
and then the
going,
kids
yeah.
were like running and frolicking and happy. And they were like the happiest right before camp. And we're like, we can't stop. Because
Yeah.
they're so happy.
Yeah.
What?
Was it right
So-
after dinner? So y'all would eat dinner and then
Yeah.
keep walking? Yeah.
We found that. And plus there was less risk of bears and all that.
Yeah,
so-
yeah. No, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
Did
But
you
it
have a hard
evolved over-
time finding camp spots ever? Like you show up and you need 3 tents and there's no room?
Never. But also
we did, but yeah.
the AT was, 2020, so that wasn't a problem. And then, yeah, the other hikes, this PCT, we did a lot of flip-flopping, so we didn't tend to be around the big bubbles.
Yeah, we weren't ever around that many people either because we went southbound on the PCT, and that was just a smaller group. And we were slower than most of the people at the beginning. We were only going 15 miles a day at the beginning, and most of the southbounders start at 20 or so. So
Yeah.
we were kind of slow for that bubble, and there weren't that many people in it anyway.
I don't believe that you guys were slow.
No.
I mean,
we
compared
just
to
started.
what?
That's where we started.
We started exactly half that. We started with 7-mile days and eased up to, 18
Yeah.
to 22 was our sweet spot.
Well, did anybody get hurt? Because that's probably where my feet issues started.
Maybe.
Would be my guess. We could have
Oh,
started.
man.
I mean, we tried to train here. We trained here beforehand, which that's a question too. Is did you all train
Yeah.
or at all? I mean, you had young kids. Like, what are we gonna do?
We did not train. We trained on the trail
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
all of them. We did like
Okay.
a few little, like maybe the max was 4 to 5 miles on like half barefoot on sandy roads in Chad, Africa. But basically no.
I think we did I think we walked 2 hours a day. We tried to walk 2 hours a day, maybe in our packs for at least a couple weeks before we left. But it was, and then, we did that. We did 2 hours a day with our packs, and then we did a longer walk on the weekend. So like 4 or 5 hours or something like that. But it was flat. It's all flat.
Great with the details sometimes. I mean, I showed up and I brought my game, but I think it would
Yeah.
be funny to hear what the guys, like our prospective partners, have
Gosh.
say about
yes.
this, because they'd be like, what were they talking about? What? Did
I
you guys have,
know.
like, what was, like, traditionally, I mean, I work in a hospital and I don't really have the traditional female role, but on the trail, I cooked. I was like the cook and the kids later, but set up camp. And so we each kind of had our roles. Did you guys have specific roles that you did as a mom?
I mean, I was the cook. What about, I mean, I was the cook, probably because I was really, really anxious to get to my coffee. But so I was like, I'm boiling the water. What about you, Mindy?
Yeah, I was the cook. We ended up ditching the stove after the PCT just because
You're so
cooking. Yeah,
I
so many
know.
people, and there was a particularly sad night in Washington. We had our nephew with us, so there was 7 of us, so hungry. I'm cooking. It's pouring rain. I'm
Oh.
stirring the pot. I get distracted, and I spilt the whole pot of hot food. And so I'm just crying, and the nephew is
Oh.
helping me bury the food so the bears don't
Yeah.
come, and then we eat what's left. And that was just, that was too much.
Yeah.
So we went stoveless, and that made my job a lot easier.
Yeah.
Wow. No way.
Eat. I mean, so the way we did it was we had one cook pot that I just basically, when I say I cooked, I mean, on the prep time, I got the food together. Like I dehydrated. On the first one, we just went nor rice meals, mashed potatoes, all the stuff that's super easy and fast and whatever. But on the second one, I was like, I can't eat like that again. Like I just can't do it. So I like dehydrated a bunch of stuff and we tried to like be a little healthier. But we just basically went with the add water to everybody had their own small cup. We put the dried food in there, add the water. We made these little like koozies for them. I think that's what they're called, to like steam the food, and everybody had basically their own thing. We never did like a big cook pot for everybody. So we basically just boiled the water and dumped into everybody's individual cups.
We did different things based on what trail, but we still have this one stove that we brought on all of them. And like I said, I'm not good at details, but I think it's a Whisper Light something, and it's an archaic stove, and it uses unleaded gas. So we liked that because we could just go into town and get. Because I hate
That
those.
is easier.
I hate those
Yeah.
little cartridges that
Canisters.
everywhere. It's so
Yeah.
annoying.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that, but then there was one point on the CDT, I'm like, we're upgrading, because it kept like having soot everywhere, and I'd be cooking and then I'd be like, oops. And then I had soot all over my face, and then it would get all over my clothes that you're wearing every single day for like a week without washing. And then like the whole process. And then I would get to be like, okay, we're getting rid of it. We're getting a new stove. Then Olin would fix it. And he like cleaned it out and he'd fix it. So we tripled down with the same stove. And
Wow.
a love-hate relationship with it because we needed hot food to motivate. Like we definitely needed hot food. We couldn't have done what you did. I mean, we
No,
made it,
I couldn't have either. That cold soaking thing.
like if we
that's
really
what you
needed
did,
to bribe the kids and it was really cold, we had hot chocolate. And, you know, there's not much space or weight, but that was like still like used it for that really hard morning or something you know, after you get going. And, but yeah, we did the nor rice sides and we're vegetarian. So we had, you know, we picked the few, there's like 3 options that are vegetarian.
Yeah.
Mashed potatoes and all of that. But I got so sick of sweet bars. Like, I got so sick of them. I'm like,
I know.
I can't do it now. Even someone's like, do you want a granola bar? I'm like, no, never. I can't do it.
I know. We tried to go.
It's wonderful. I'm so sick of it.
I know. Yep.
But
so what did y'all eat, Mindy, when you went?
Oh, it was, you know, what can you put inside a tortilla? Do you want this meat stick? Do you want this peanut butter? Do you want, you know, anything inside a tortilla can work. Adam was the only one who really stayed true to the ramen bomb. We all had our own little cups, right? And to cold soak the ramen takes, I don't know, I like 4-hour soak. And then you add some peanut butter and if you're lucky enough and have some soy sauce, you got yourself your trail pad thai.
Thai food, yeah.
And the first trail on the PCT, I was thinking, no, I want to eat so much healthier. I want to have chia seeds and flax seeds and hemp seeds. And so in one town, I got my paws on some of that out of a hiker box, and I was hungry an hour later. But the ramen bomb that Adam was eating, it was fuel for a good 6 hours, amazingly. And so that was, I mean, to this day, our kids most of them won't eat peanut butter. We just had so much peanut butter.
We would have, sorry, go ahead. Keep going.
No, go ahead.
I was saying we would have like a jar of peanut butter, you know, like a good size, I don't know how many ounces it is, but a good sized jar of peanut butter. And we would just take our spoons and eat it for a break. And
just everybody dig in.
First time Olin did that, I'm like, are you kidding? What are you doing? And then the kids like fell for it. They liked it. So I was like, okay, that's really great, you know, high calories for weight food. And so any olive oil or peanut butter we could just get into our food was the best.
I think we all carried our own mini olive oil bottles. I think everybody had one in their thing. We were like, add it.
You just drank a little bit every evening.
Yes.
Adam wants me to note that we took 6 pounds of peanut butter into the Sierras. And when we were on the CDT, our friend Mona Lisa taught us, take a brand new jar of peanut butter, eat some of it, and then just put in M&Ms or chocolate chips and then let that melt in your pack. And that became the favorite dessert.
Yeah.
That is a good idea. Man, we should have followed you more for good tricks.
I know. Let's see. Organization? Did you guys have organizational styles?
Yeah,
let's
for
see.
sure.
Organizational systems, like with camp, chores, or resupply. Like, how would y'all do? I'm interested in resupply, but go ahead.
There was, I mean, you guys have big families, you know, it's like in the hotel room and you have all this trash.
Oh my God. I would like lose my mind every time.
It's overwhelming. And if you don't take a 00, you're like, you're not going to get any sleep that night. So since we had a little kid, it's like by the time we got her to sleep, then it's like, oh, I got to organize the food. It was a little overwhelming. So I'm like, oh, it was really hard to get out of town. We're like, do you just want one more 0? I just want to sleep in.
No, that would be good. Yeah.
It was really tough to get out of town, but I was the shopper. So I would go in and buy, you know, all the things in the store. And I looked, you know, people would be like, wow, she's buying a lot. Like, this is our normal family.
She's a prepper.
Right? But I did notice it felt like a lot of trash, like in the hotel room when you had all the boxes emptied and poured everything into Ziploc bags and.
Yeah, tons of. Yeah, I agree. There was it felt like a lot of well, it felt like a lot of waste, but I would lose my mind every time we would go in and have to like, here you have the dirty clothes pile that needs to be washed, and then you have the trash pile from the food, and then you got the new stuff, and then you got, I mean, just, whew, it was just a lot, and a lot of smells that were not great. I think I was the laundry person for sure. I think I wasn't always the shopper. Sometimes we'd go together, and sometimes I just wouldn't go, and I would just wash clothes. But I was definitely the clothes washer, I remember. But
yeah, I tried to make the kids rinse out all their own socks. You know, those went through the laundry so much better if they were rinsed out.
A few times.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was always better when the kids were full on participating in town days, but that rarely happened, right? I mean, they get next to an electronic plug or a TV or whatever, and they were worthless. But no, there was one time in Cuba, New Mexico, where we handed each kid like $24 and said, you are in charge of your own resupply at this store for 3 days.
We did that at some point too in California. Yeah, we did that too.
And
we're
they
like,
had a great
go buy what you want.
With $10. Hey, what do you want to buy? I think I'll just take all gummy bears.
Yes, that's what they did. We were like, well, they'll survive.
Lesson learned.
They got lots of Oreos.
That's really smart, Mindy.
Well, it was Adam's idea. Yeah.
But yeah, what did they buy? What did they buy?
I think they did pretty good. By that time, they had learned not all calories are equal, and this is, food is fuel. And it was a lot. Some of them liked tortillas and some didn't. And so then they got to just make their own decisions of, okay, meat sticks are really expensive. Is it possible to get better protein from whatever? I don't know. We have a picture of them like all spread out with their gear. And there were definitely half gallon of ice cream strewn amongst that mess too, that they were just sitting there eating with their camp food
while packing.
I mean, did you guys ever experience like the parent guilt or mom guilt? I mean, we did minimally, but sometimes when we got to towns, we'd be like, oh, but they never get that. So then we'd let them, watch the movies or whatever, or have any food they wanted because we're like, okay, you deserve it.
Yeah. No,
I didn't feel any guilt.
I don't know what other guilt.
I didn't feel guilt about that either.
Okay.
I didn't. I mean, I would be like, I'd probably be like, quit watching TV and help me do something. But I was happy most of the time to have them get some rest because,
The problem was with like all the sugar and stuff is we had a baby who I feel like when you hike so many miles, like you're just not going to get sick really because you're just, you can burn through the sugar. It's not really going to make you sick like it would normally.
Yeah.
But the problem is dead weight was not hiking. So she'd see all the sugar and she'd be like, I want that too. And we're like, no, you can't have it. We can have it, but you can't. So we had to be careful.
Yeah, that's
not
interesting.
eating all the sugar all the time because she's not burning through the calories or burning through the sugar.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't even thought about that.
While the rest of us could eat whatever we wanted, I felt protected, which is something
I didn't get sick at all. Did you get sick out there? I did get norovirus. I think that's what I got anyway from a water cache. That was about it. Yeah, that was rough. That was gross.
Did you guys get hurt, like injured or anything? I don't remember. Let's see.
I had a little plantar fasciitis. Probably one of our oldest daughter probably had tendonitis in her foot, and we found a trail angel who let us stay at their house in California outside of Tehachapi for 4 nights. And he just happened to be a retired firefighter who went to a chef school, and he made us 3 meals a day.
Amazing.
And was so happy to let us stay with him. And he had a pool and a hot tub, and he would take us out to eat and show us off to his friends. Like, I got all these hikers. And we stayed there 4 nights.
That's so nice.
And Sierra got all better, and we just kept on walking. I mean, we just had
awesome.
The best experiences with,
That's great.
In my mind, I think of, it was probably like Charles Dickens who first put it into our ideas about the death is the grim reaper. But on trail, I was always thinking about injuries being like this joker that was following us along. And you'd hear other hikers and just how heartbroken they were that they had to get off trail, that they're injured. And statistically speaking, there's no way the 6 of us are going to make it on this trail.
Yes.
But we did. Somehow we beat the Joker.
I know.
Well, that's a question. Do you think that, I'm just thinking, because do you think that being in the group was, because, statistically, all of us shouldn't have finished, right? But we did. So I just think that means it might be better to be in a bigger group.
You're right. Well, because then you have less, like one time on our first hike, Olin, we had slack packed. What is that? The beginning of the white. There's, I forget what the name of it is right now. It's been a while since I've thought of the AT. But anyway, we had slack packed, it was the most southern part, I think. I can't remember. But we got to the bottom and we had a pickup truck that we were kind of helping ourselves slack pack. And so we had the keys and he was like, we had finished, all of the steep steps and everything. And it had been, slippery and everything. We finished all the hard part. And then he was like at the bridge, he stepped off, like looking in his pocket or something for his keys, and he twisted his ankle. Uh-oh. And we, it's like, seriously, you couldn't have done it like on a really hard part. So it really, we had to be like, are we going to still go? We didn't know if it was broken or not. Anyways, we ended up getting a quick x-ray, and then the next was Kinsman's, and those were the hardest. I don't know if they were really the hardest. I feel like that was the hardest part of the AT, but it may have been because the rest of us took Olin's weight because we couldn't slack pack the Kinsman's. It was too far. So even Lyle was 11, I think then. And so he took more weight, and everybody just took a little more, and I took more. And so Olin took less. And we were like, for the benefit of everybody, like, you have to put away your man, like, macho-ness and like take less weight. Like he was in like hardly, he didn't carry much weight at all because we were trying to be good to his ankle. And he was like, well, I should be able to keep up with a 4-year-old.
You're like, no, you're old.
Anyways, but that was like one of our trying moments. We're like, well, are we done? Like, and just so many times that could have happened where you have to reevaluate the whole, like on all the hikes, you keep reevaluating, like, is it still fun for people? Is this still something we want to do? It wasn't like, I don't know. It was just a lot of checking in with everybody all the time, I think. But that was one of the major things that happened to us.
We definitely thought my feet were going to keep us from finishing the PCT at the end, because we had been doing lots and lots of miles, and I just couldn't anymore. And I think it was at Cajon Pass. I remember coming down Cajon Pass was like the worst thing. And so we stopped. We knew we had a friend there in that area, and she let us stay for a couple days, and I got an x-ray and just to make sure everything was okay. And so we just decided if I could probably do 20 miles a day, but we just stopped it at 20 miles a day, and we called it limp to the finish. We're just gonna limp to the finish. So we just cut it off at 20 miles a day, and we would finish about like 2:00.
I think it's a little different if it's like yourself. Okay, a parent, we can abuse ourselves as parents. Like Olin's ankle was, if it would have been a kid, we wouldn't have been able to do that because there's so many people that would find out about it or whatever. Okay. I mean, we don't want to do that to our kids anyway. Yeah. We do not participate in child abuse, even though somebody's a kidnapper here. But you have to make sure that your kids are okay, because you're out in the middle of nowhere. In some of the places, the Bob and the winds, you're literally out in the middle of nowhere. And if you're not completely okay with how your kids are feeling and acting, then it's dangerous.
Yeah.
So we did get some of that. I don't know if you guys did. Like, people are like, why are you putting your kids in danger? But are we the only people?
They should be at home. They should be on video games instead, right?
Yeah, that would be so much better for them.
I was thinking, I was really nervous going into the winds and just getting into grizzly territory, because I hadn't really been that much in grizzly territory before. And I'm like, the toddler, Piper makes such a mess. I'm like, how are we even going to camp? They're going to come to our camp. And then, like, I don't know. I was really nervous, but yeah, when you compare like your worst thing that maybe could happen on the trail, I mean, there are a lot of bad things that can happen, but, and trust me, I thought of many of those things. But then you compare them to sometimes life here, the sedentary lifestyle, or living in a house and there's just a lot of bad things you can get into here too. So
for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's less risky on the trail.
Yeah. 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 I think, I mean, there's obviously the animals, and that was a thing for me for sure on the PCT. I was like, I know a big cat is going to get one of my
I saw
them going to the bathroom.
On the PCT.
I know. I remember when I saw that you saw one, I was like, I'm so jealous, but I'm so not at the same time.
And
that would have terrified me.
We were slack packing. So we did this thing where when we slack pack, I crossed the kids, and Olin and the kids would hike together and I would cross him. And so that was after we had our legs and we knew, okay, we can do 25 or 30 miles or whatever. But I would end up hiking a lot at night because I would drive around, and sometimes it was a couple hours to get to the other side of the trail. So I'd be hiking at night and I'd be like, the cats, the big cats. I was so nervous of them. But
I can't believe you saw one. I can't believe you saw
one. And this girl had just told me, she was like, yeah, I've researched it a lot, or I've thought about it. She's like, they're not in this area. Or she was telling me she's not sensing it. She wasn't like telling me for sure, but she was like, yeah, there's none in this area right now. And then I saw one that day. I was like,
was it just like,
it was bigger than me.
Gosh.
Yeah. Anyways, I know we all have stories of like cool things like that, but that was
well, let's talk about them. Let's talk about them.
Imagining them, the eyes that are out there, I'm like,
I know.
All out there.
Yeah, especially on the PCT when we saw the big cat prints. Like, we never saw the big cat, but I could feel the hair on the back of my neck standing up. I knew we were being watched, for sure.
I did not like the PCT hiking at night, but I just thought of Anish and all of her, sightings and everything, and she's so inspiring. So I was like, okay, I can keep going.
Yeah, she had some scary stories.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, I mean, gosh.
Did you guys do a lot of night hiking?
We did a little. I hated night hiking so much. I hated it just because I felt like I saw all the eyes everywhere.
Yeah.
I was like, I think the things that want to be on the prowl are on the prowl at night. So I think I want to be in my tent because my tent's going to protect me.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I didn't love it. Did y'all do night hiking, Mindy?
Well, we only had one that I can think of. We had a failed slack pack on the PNT when Adam's dad was going to pick us up in this trailhead after like a 15-mile day. And then we got there and the weeds in the parking lot were so tall. We're like, oh no, something's wrong. So we could send a message on the inReach, and luckily we got a hold of his dad, and the road had been washed out. So we had another 9 miles to do that night. And so luckily, the kids were in tank tops. I mean, we weren't prepared for a cold night hike, but we had some headlamps and we just kept moving and played loud music. And at one point, it was probably a herd of elk, but it was next to us as we walked along, and it was rustling around. Those guys are big. And we got to Adam's dad at like 1 a.m. And yeah, we didn't do a whole lot of night hiking. Like, that one all worked out. All of our prayers were answered. And maybe one of the most, and there were lots of, like, for us, probably spiritual moments on trail where you're like, oh, this is a really hard situation. I wouldn't face this in civilization. And I think that just helped make it a little more spiritual moments for the kids, and prayers are answered.
For me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so what were some of those moments for y'all, like the scary or the things where you're like, I'm not sure how we're going to do this?
I had one moment on the CDT in the beginning where we were new with the baby on the trail. We were doing okay, but Olin was carrying a lot of water weight because we couldn't do, there was a couple 20-mile carries and we weren't doing 20 miles yet. So this one point, we were 18 miles away from a road, and Piper, she used to eat, she would sit on her little toilet. You talk about the toilet. And, she wasn't walking yet, but she would pick up, there's a lot of cow poop on the CDT. She would pick it up and, something probably made her sick. And anyway, she was vomiting in her tent. And I'm like, oh, and I'm breastfeeding this child. And she's vomiting. And I'm like, we're 18 miles away from somewhere. And thankfully, one thing I would tell everybody to have, even grown-ups, is, I don't know if you know what Zofran is. It's something that keeps you from vomiting. And there's something called oral dissolving tablets. And I would, even when we're slack packing, I would always have that in my fanny pack because, what are you going to do in the middle of nowhere? You're by yourself if you're slack packing. If I was by myself, so we gave her a little bit of it and, she improved, but we were like, okay, we just calculating and figuring out, should we go to town or not? Or she okay?
Yeah,
so that was
especially with a kid because they could dehydrate so fast.
If you have a baby out in the wilderness, you have to think, how far away am I from help? Or rattlesnakes really scared me, even though we didn't get bit or anything. But that was one of my fears in Southern California. I was like, oh. But those things, just being kind of far away. And if you have kids and even little kids too, any kids are special, but it kind of worried me about the rattlesnakes and then just being sick and away from people.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had any of those scares or.
Well, the one time we got really sick like that, where it could have been bad, we had just gotten to town, so I was able to be super sick in town. I'm trying to think if anybody, what did happen, and I'm not sure we handled this well at all, but we were in the winds, and I forget why we saw a ranger, but she had a dog. I think Vince is telling me something. We had a dog. She had a dog, like a German Shepherd, and Georgie went to pet it, and it bit her.
Oh my goodness!
And she didn't. So it bit her, and we just thought it nipped at her hand because she put her hand behind her back, and the ranger was like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry." Blah 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 blah. And the ranger walks away, and Georgie shows us her hand, and it's bleeding. She has, probably should have gotten some stitches, but we had some butterfly strips and we just cleaned it out the best we could, put some bacitracin on it, and I just tried to keep it closed. But I was like, oh my goodness, we're out in the middle of nowhere and she just got bit by a dog.
And it could get infected.
Yeah.
You think
so
about
here I am talking to the doctor, I was like, what? Talk about prayer. I did do a lot of praying about that. I was like,
yeah.
So that was something scary. I think our only other really scary moment was on the PCT when we were just wet, and it was getting colder and colder, and we still had a few more days to go. And Vince lost his puffy, got wet, and his down sleeping bag got wet. So we were kind of sweating it as far as, are we gonna get hypothermia? But we snuggled all together. It was okay. 3 of us shared 2 sleeping bags in a 2-man tent.
Yeah.
So it was okay.
What about you, Mindy?
Yeah.
Well, we lost Tristan for at least an hour in the Sierras. Right before a snowstorm hit. We had come up to a lake, and we hike in the same order, the oldest 2 girls in front, and then Tristan. And on the PCT, it was Adam and I in the back with Ruby, trying to be cheerleaders to keep her going. And she would take lots of lengthy potty breaks and kill time. So we had fallen behind with Ruby. And by the time we caught up with the older girls, we're like, where's Tristan? They're like, I don't know. And there was a split around a lake, and they had gone to the right. He had gone to the left. So we all went different directions, and the wind was blowing, and he always had an earbud in. So even if I was blowing a whistle or anything, the sound of the water at the lake and the wind, he just wouldn't have heard. And so after some frantic searching, we meet back up. Did you find him? Did you find him? No. And then spread out again. Kaya and I eventually found him, and he was crying and I was crying. And luckily we all met up together, and a hiker was just walking up and, are you guys okay? Why is this huge family out here?
Crying?
Why is everyone crying? Yeah. So, that all worked out. But I would say that was my scariest moment on the trail. Just worst case scenario thinking of, he's got his book in his ear and he's just going to keep walking. He's not going to stop. And the only reason he did stop was that his trail ended. But the trail, if he was on a trail that didn't end, he would keep going, which we lost him again on the AT. Same thing. But it was scary.
Yeah. We lost Henry once, and I don't even remember what happened. He actually went back to the junction where he thought he did the right thing. I was kind of like, I don't know how you knew how to do that. I wouldn't have done that.
You taught him well. Good job.
I didn't teach him. But he was sitting there at the junction when Vince went back to check. And then we lost Georgie on the AT. How do you get lost on the AT? But I mean, she thought we went down to I want to know. Like, she thought we went down to a shelter. There was like a spur trail off to a shelter, and we hadn't gone. No, we had gone. Sorry, we had gone, and she went straight. She had been behind us going to the bathroom. She was going straight. We had gone off to the spur trail, and she just kept going and kept going. She was like an hour up the trail. Anyway, Vince ended up going up ahead, and he found her, but she had to scare him, and she didn't even have a phone. She didn't have anything.
I don't remember losing any kids. So look, I'm winning here.
You're winning. You're winning.
Well done.
I mean, ours were younger, so that we had them be less independent. We typically were always together, especially on the last hike. I was more nervous about, you hear all these stories of cougars attacking like one or two, but when we were a big group, like we talked to different people, and I find you were talking about your fears. If you like, lightning was one of my fears, and cougars. Those were probably my two biggest ones. But if you research on it and figure out all the ways, like the more you know about it, the less you're going to be freaking out about stuff that doesn't exist. So we stayed together as a big group mostly, just because the bigger you are,
big groups. Yeah,
exactly. But then when I was by myself slack packing, that's when I was like,
that's when you saw it. Proof that
we were too loud. We were too loud for anything to sneak up on us.
Yes, we were too. Yeah.
Same.
Yeah.
Wait, can I share one more scary story?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
My mother-in-law joined us in Washington for another stretch. The most remote stretch there between Stehekin and the cutoff for Rainy Pass.
Going north, right? Yeah.
Super remote. And
beautiful.
Took us the most days, yeah.
Yeah. And so she broke her leg out there. And at first she just thought it was her knee. And so she took off and decided to walk. We were so close to getting to Stehekin. And the teenagers ran ahead. They caught the bus. They called Grandpa. And poor Adam decided, his mom's moving at less than a fourth of a mile an hour. There's no way we're getting 60 miles that day. So he set up his tent. He left Ruby and the dog to watch Grandma. And he ran ahead. And that shuttle bus that takes you into Stehekin, he was less than 5 minutes away. He was running as fast as he could to catch the last bus of the day. He heard the doors close and the bus took off. So then he's trying to do that walk into town, which is, 16 miles or so. And luckily some locals saw him, and it just couldn't have worked out better. The locals were like, oh, you need someone who, what do they call the people with the horses? And they're like, you need this guy named Coulter. So they took him.
Right.
And the Coulter does backpacking rescues with the horses, right? And the next morning, he met up with this guy. They took 2 horses. They got in there and rescued his mom and Ruby and the dog. But that was a good story.
Was she in a ton of pain all night?
She must have a very high pain tolerance. But
she's a tough cookie.
She's a tough cookie.
Wow.
She must have been.
We did not stop at Stehekin. That's why it was.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
I don't remember why we did not stop there. Something with our timing. I don't remember. But yeah, that was a long stretch. I just remember that stretch there. We skipped the one that could have made it half the distance or half the length, or why we skipped it.
I just remember the bakery so well. Yeah. The bakery. And I think that's where I washed our clothes for the first time. Maybe or something.
Oh, Adam just reminded me of a tip that I have about cougars. You're out there. It was amazing how many balloons I found out in the forest.
Yeah,
the mylar
foil ones. Yeah.
Tie them to the back of your pack, and a cougar is going to see that shiny thing and be scared.
And want to bat it and come, hey, look, there's Mindi. We're going to come after her. I don't think I would trust that. What is your
my theory?
Is this evidence-based?
I don't think so. I'm going to put that on there. The cougar is going to be following me.
We should try it.
Anything.
I'll keep
but
testing
I did love the PCT. Yeah.
I know. Did you do it?
Did I tie balloons to my pack?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
You did.
Every time I found one.
You didn't get attacked.
There, correlation and causation.
Yeah.
Maybe. We had for my kid's birthday, for Zane's birthday and Olin's birthday, it was our last hike, and we were trying to figure out what's light, and light is balloons. And so I don't know if you guys remember seeing the pictures or not, but Zane was turning 13, I think 12. He was turning 12. So we did 12 balloons on his backpack for the whole day. And there was a bunch of blowdowns leaving. This was Northern Washington. And like, I was like, if you make it through, I don't remember. He got some prize. Oh, I think a watch that we promised him if the balloons didn't pop. So now we know why the cougars did not come near us that day.
See?
It was protection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We love the balloons on birthdays. We had Ruby's 10th birthday. She had a balloon on from Walker Pass into Kennedy Meadows. And we would pass like Boy Scout groups and they're like, oh, happy birthday. Or, all these hikers would know to say happy birthday. She loved it.
Yeah. I remember seeing the pictures of birthdays. That was fun that you guys did that. For sure. I don't know what time it is. What time is it? Have we been talking for a million hours? It's 6 o'clock.
An hour 17. It says up there at the top.
Oh, okay.
I guess I didn't ask you what our time frame is, but I know we could talk literally forever on that. Right. We all have so many experiences. I guess we should be. This is probably going to get edited out this part again.
No, it's okay. Oh, I am interested in this, although I have to remember what it was like for me because it's been a while now. But how was it getting back to normal life once you were done with all the hiking? What was it like for y'all?
Go ahead, Mindy.
Okay. Well, I don't know.
I've had a normal life.
Yeah. The juxtaposition between civilization and trail life, it just always gets me. You just can't even describe the simplicity of trail life, of, the family routine, your daily routine, just survival. I just love it. Love it. And I had asked my kids to, if they would answer this question. Only one responded about how hard it was to transition. And I think she just said, it's the food. You're used to being able to eat whatever you want, as much as you want. And then coming back in real life and being like, oh no, I got to find some balance.
I got to dial it back. Yeah.
Yeah. And she said that, the simplicity of the eat, hike, sleep, just over and over and over again, and being outside 24/7, you just don't get that in normal. So, and that was hard for me to return.
Yeah. I think being inside was really hard for me after all the sunshine, and I mean, even, for moods and everything, I think that makes a big difference for me. I think the food is so simple. You know what? I listen to so many books out there, and I felt like I learned, and not just books, but like podcasts and stuff too.
You speak 5 languages now?
I should have done that with my time.
Why did you waste all that time? I wish I would have, right?
That's on your next round.
We had all these like thoughts of what it would be like. We didn't have the Triple Crown idea, but like after the first hike, you're like, oh, this is like for my AT hike, even halfway through, I cut out I wanted to learn all of the trees and all the flowers and all these things. And I cut them out and I had them in my pack, and then like they didn't come out once. And I'm like, I'm going to be that mom where the kids like, they know all the trees and, oh, what's that flower and that bird? I mean, we do love nature, but
Yes, the ideals are not quite met.
Because you're like, we don't stop a lot. We did not take the 2-hour, 6-hour siesta. We hike very slowly. So we just kind of kept going, and we did games as we went. We didn't rest ever. Just kidding. No, we did. Also, our real life was a little different. So people are like, oh, I remember one time I met this family, or this woman, and towards the end of our PCT hike. And I was talking about, like something about real life, and that we weren't really living real life, but I loved what I lived. It wasn't real life. And she was like, well, what is real life? And she kind of brought me back to that, like, you shouldn't say it like that because I don't know, like what we are doing is special, and it's what we're choosing to do. So so the whole real life thing,
it's an aspect of real life.
Yeah. I mean,
this is our current real life.
I've kind of switched to societal living or something else. to try and describe
Mhm.
like what we did then. Like
Mhm.
even now, we just started living somewhere in August to kind of be a more permanent place. And when I explain to people, they're like, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm like, "Well, we're from Africa, but we live nomadically." And it's hard to explain the through hiking thing, so I don't usually bring that up.
Yeah.
Like, we
I
were kind of
know. I know.
nomadic
Dude,
for
how many
a
people
year.
in your normal life, I'm sorry, I just did it again. How many people in your day-to-day life know that
Yeah.
you have hiked
Well,
this much?
I mean, it does come up, but it's
Does it?
weird to explain unless you explain the whole thing.
Yes.
And then you don't want to be bragging because you're like, we did, 6 months of hiking for 3 different years. Like it's just, I
Yeah.
don't know. It's nice to have other women that can
Mhm.
like relate because sometimes you're the weird ones.
Yeah. Yeah, and people's eyes kind of glaze over a little bit when you start to talk about
Yeah.
it. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, really? Oh.
But honestly, we really appreciate, like, I still even, every time I take a hot shower, we didn't have a hot shower in Africa. So when we
Mhm.
were on trail, I was like, "Ooh, a hot shower. This is so nice." But even here, I'm like, I still think of, "Oh, this is a nice shower," just from being on the trail or,
Mhm. Yeah.
like, I don't know.
It
The
does
things
make you
that we have,
appreciate it.
we're,
Yeah.
we're very appreciative of things.
We just
Uh,
went again on a short hike over Christmas in South Carolina and North Carolina, and it rained the entire time. We were cold, and I just came back and I was like, this bed is so amazing. And it's probably like 20-year-old mattress. It's like,
no way. It sounds amazing.
I
Your
was
bed.
like, this bed is the best. So, yeah, it definitely gives you a good perspective. The luxuries that we have pretty
Yeah,
constantly.
it's true. Just having
Mhm.
a refrigerator and a stove and
Mhm. Mhm.
those
Yeah.
simple things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. This says, well, so do you guys have questions? Remember I said I think we should have one question. Do you have any questions? Today's like, I didn't think about it. Okay, I'll ask my question. You don't have to ask yours if you don't have one. But I just wondered what you thought it had done in your kids' lives. Like, I know that's broad, but do you think
I'll
it
start.
changed your kids' lives and how?
Like, I just think, I mean, we've always said, you probably heard us, and you guys, I'm sure, say the same thing. Like the kids know they can do hard things. Like, who would think, I mean, I'm sure you guys said this exact same thing, but sometimes you don't think of it. Like, it's a little thing putting one foot in front of the other. But when you add it up, it's, a big, long through
Mhm.
hike,
Yeah.
over 2,000 miles each hike. So I hope that I mean, my kids are still pretty young to like say with words exactly how it's changed them. But,
Mhm.
and I mean, I don't even think Juniper remembers the AT because she was 4.
Mhm.
But I have
Mhm.
a million pictures, so hopefully.
Yeah.
But I do think like so after we finished our Triple Crown, we moved to Virginia and we were kind of temporarily in this housing, in a house. And we went and we were learning snowboarding and skiing and stuff. And the kids, the first day they went out, they were like hating it. And we were like, it's just like a through hike, like you're not good at it when you first start because we didn't train.
Mhm.
You have to build it up and you build up the miles and everything. And so I don't know, we just use it as an example of, eventually you do something and you get better at it, just like through
Mhm.
hiking.
Mhm.
So it's more of an example and a way of living. And
Yeah.
there are so many things, which I'm sure you guys have too.
Yeah. Yeah. What
Yeah,
about
you
you,
took
Mindy?
the words out of my mouth. I was thinking the same thing. Like, I just wanted the kids to have grit and I wanted them to know they could do hard things. But another perk I think that really helped was we interacted with other hikers. We were talking with people, way out of our normal circle of,
Yeah.
people from
Yes.
all over the world, all walks of life and ages.
Mhm.
And I just
Mhm.
saw my kids like really shine with that, with their communication skills and
Mhm.
problem solving and what we call trail math, being
Mhm.
able to be like, okay, this is how much food we have. This is how many miles we got to go a day. This,
Mhm.
just very basic math, but they were working on it. They were thinking that way. I think it just was a great lesson in the culture, working with other people, and just a way of thinking about life. It's not all about the stuff. Less stuff,
Mhm.
more fun.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. My kid, well, at least my son was at a he went to this, because we homeschooled most of the time, but he went to high school he went part-time to high school when we got back, and he was like, Mom, I just don't think anybody knows how to, like, everybody just complains so much.
Yeah.
It was like, I just don't think anybody knows how to suffer at all.
Yes.
I was like,
or suffer in silence. Don't you know you're supposed to suffer in silence?
No, but I mean, he just was like, nobody can, like, they're just like kind of, he wasn't trying to be a jerk, but he was just like, everybody's just kind of wimpy about things. Like, why are they complaining about the smallest stuff? I mean, I don't know. I complain about small stuff too.
Well,
but
when you're out there, you're like life and death situations, you know, you got to get to a certain point because of food and all these things. So I think it becomes more like the important things in life, like eating.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah. Your Maslow's, you're low on the Maslow's hierarchy. Those are the important things.
But what would you guys say? I mean, I get sometimes people ask me this, but my kids won't go 1 mile without complaining. And I guess I don't know what you would say to other people. I have kind of what I say, but I was interested in what you say. You know, people are like, I mean, kids like hiking, but how do you get them to go that far?
You get dropped off at Mexico and you have no car and no way to go anywhere else.
I mean, I do think that's a little bit like, because at some point everyone complains, and I complain too, you know, like in my, even if it's just internally, I'm like, this hurts, you know, or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, that's when I'm usually like, well, Vince is there to be funny. And that's what I do.
You're like, that's when I go to the back and I go, the world.
Yes, Vince told me one time that the PCT was like hiking. He said, sometimes I feel like I'm hiking with my 4 kids and another backpack.
Hey, you showed up. That is a lot.
He's just a motivator. He's totally more, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so I think because I said, I hate it when they're unhappy. I really hate it when they're unhappy. And he's not that bothered by that. Like, he's not like, you're unhappy, but he's just like, it's okay. You know, like, he's just not that, he's not going to get sad about it if they're unhappy. And I'm going to want to fix it for them.
It gets easier. I mean, I tell this to a lot of people who were thinking of maybe I'll do a through hike, but I don't know if my kids will do it. Like, I kind of like how Olin suggested when we started ours. We're like, okay, kids, whether you like it or not, we're doing it for a month. So you can either like it or not. But I mean, they ended up having fun. It's just that it was like, start maybe instead of saying we're doing the Triple Crown. I don't know if I could have done that, Mindy, because I would have felt like
so ambitious.
But we were like, if we fail, we're just going for a month, so it's okay. Like, I don't know if you have like a mindset like we're just going to try it for a month and it's okay. I kind of like that, and then the kids really did get on board. But it all depends on your kids and you know how well you can brainwash them ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought if we had different kids, would we have been able to do it? Is it just because our kids are so tough? Is it just because Adam is so good at motivating them? I don't know what the magic was that it all worked out. And I mean, certainly there are families that, you know, their kids just aren't going to do this. But I think so much of it is just saying, this is what we're doing. There's no other. Yeah. Adam says, stick and carrot. You just can figure it out how to keep them moving.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean like I definitely, you know, agree with you, but sometimes you have like somebody with a kid and their through hike failed or whatever. It doesn't mean they're not good at it. It's just there's a lot of variables that enter into that. So
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could not have done it by myself. I know that. Like, I could not have taken my kid.
No way.
Like,
especially
absolutely no way.
When Juniper was 4, there is no way.
I have a quick story. Before we set off on the PCT, someone was like, oh, I knew a family once that said they were going to, you know, buy a boat and sail around the world, and they sold their house and all their cars, and they get on these ships, or this one ship, and they lasted 1 day before people are seasick and they decide they hate it, and they just come back home and they got no house and no car and no nothing. And she's like, that'd be so embarrassing if that happened to you guys. And I was like, it might. I mean,
because you sold your house, right?
Yeah. I mean,
like,
it
could. Friend?
Yeah.
It's like the meanest thing.
I know. Yeah,
I think you're so brave for like starting off saying you're going to do it.
right.
Yeah.
Well, with that kind of story, like that could totally happen.
It
And,
could, or you could just like twist your ankle in a little divot or something.
Which I did
Getting your
before,
keys, right?
before we
Yeah.
even started the PCT. I was looking at that wall and I rolled my ankle in a big divot. And like, so I mean, my
Yeah.
first like 10 days on trail, I'm nursing this huge swollen ankle thinking,
Oh gosh.
am I going to be able to, is this real? How are we going to do this?
Yeah.
And Adam was just like, you've got to start paying attention to where you step. Like, oh, you're right.
Gosh. That was me 100%. I was always like looking around. I was like looking around, looking at the trees, looking for big cats.
Yeah.
And I would trip and twist and whatever.
Well, you just needed balloons on your backpack, apparently.
See?
I know, shiny balloons.
That's our biggest tip from this whole podcast.
Right.
The shiny balloons on your backpack.
We found one on, I think we found one on Mother's Day, and it was like Happy Mother's Day, and I just found it out in the woods, and I tied it on my pack.
That was perfect. It's all Mother's Day out here.
See, I would not have gone out to get it. My kids were the ones going out to get the balloons. Like, they had probably been there for a month, deflated. And they'd be like, look what I found. I'm like, okay, whatever. You have a lot of energy, Mindy.
Yes, I know. She does.
Oh, maybe so. Oh,
Well, the final reflection question, which I think I know the answer to, but was it all worth it? All the miles, challenges, for all the what made it worth it? Let's say that. What makes it worth it?
man, I just think
Excuse me while I
time.
start crying.
I know.
What a treasure to have all that time together. And I put together all my notes and I put it in a book. And I just thought, I just want my kids to have this so they know they have a physical record of all the cool stories, all the trail angels that we ran into, all the people that helped us. And I just want them to always be able to, I don't think they've read the book yet, but maybe someday they would.
Did you keep a journal? Is that how you remembered all of it?
Yeah, I just wrote notes down in my phone every night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really detailed.
I still have videos from like all 3 trails, and I still have aspirations to make something, but someday. It's only been a year and a half since we finished. Wait, has it been? It's been a while. So.
I bet you'll do it.
Totally.
I mean, I think it was so worth it because I just remember this one night. I think we must have been on the PCT because I was cowboy camping. I don't know how much I did of that on the other one, but I just remember, when did y'all cowboy camp ever?
Yes.
Okay.
But
so
I was so worried the baby would like crawl away.
I know. Picture the big cat coming up.
Never near water.
Oh, yeah, that too. And I just remember, how the stars are like right on your face, basically. Like you wake up in the middle of the night and they're like right on your face. But we were going to bed one night and I just think we were like just laughing and laughing and laughing going to bed, just laying in like a little rows, freezing, but not freezing because we were together. And I just remember thinking it was worth it. Just like I feel like we bonded in a way that we wouldn't have otherwise,
Yeah, for sure. Not many parents can spend. I mean, we were working way too much when we were in Chad, and so for us, it was like a way to bond with our children. And we didn't want 3, but like 3 after 2, we were like, we have to do the third one.
Yeah, we get to just do 2/3.
like we were saying, I mean, it's just a blessing, and it's not fair because a lot of people would want to do it. I was in rural Africa where those people would love to take time off from working in the rice fields, and they can carry so much more than I could ever carry. So it's not even fair that, we get to, but, we can't feel guilty for it. We're just happy.
A blessing. It's a big blessing.
But like you were saying, it's all about family time, and you're hiking and you find yourself talking like all the time when normally you wouldn't probably talk to your teenager. I don't know. So you're kind of forced into talking, and
yeah,
it was wonderful. 1,000%.
Yeah.
Do it again.
I agree. I call it the best thing we've ever done as a family, as parents. Probably the best thing we'll ever do.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really know how to officially wrap this up, but
let's make plans to hike together.
Okay. But
I'm like, you guys are so cool. If you can handle camping next to a baby. I mean,
Of course. Well, the
Somehow-
Hexa Trek, are y'all going to actually, I wonder which part it's going to be. I'm supposed to join them over the summer.
we can change.
I don't know where they'll be. Yeah. Hexa
Yeah.
Trek.
I'm down. Anywhere.
You'll be off of school.
I know. I was thinking of getting a teaching certificate and I would be busy all summer, but I just decided yesterday, no, I'm not doing that. Let's go hiking.
Sounds like we might just be hearing about some new trail adventures soon, while we wait to see where these remarkable moms end up hiking together. You can deep dive into their family journeys in my book, Pretty Good at Walking, available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, or audiobook format. And make sure also to check out Mindi Bennett's Kids Out Wild, a family's tale of love and suffering on 4 of America's national scenic trails, which captures her family's extraordinary adventures in vivid detail. And keep your eyes open. It sounds like Danae and Olin might have some stories of their own coming soon. Until next time on Pretty Good at Talking, keep walking. You never know who you might meet on trail.